You know that feeling when you grab a cheap kitchen scale or a DIY humidity meter, only to discover a week later that it can't handle the real work you need it for? I've seen a lot of people regret that shortcut, especially when they end up reordering a proper instrument and still have to deal with the time lost on bad data. So the question I keep hearing is, does the Radwag MA50R actually feel like a smarter buy, or is it just another pricey gadget that looks good on paper? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with why buying a moisture analyzer can be a gamble. If you've never needed to quantify water content before, the temptation is to think any digital scale will do. The reality is that moisture analysis is a two-step process. You need to weigh the sample, dry it under controlled conditions, then weigh it again and let the instrument calculate the loss. A cheap scale can give you a stable weight, but it won't manage the drying cycle, won't compensate for ambient humidity, and often won't store the data in a way you can actually use. Miss that, and you end up with numbers you can't trust, which can be disastrous in food safety, pharmaceutical compliance, or even in a hobbyist's batch testing. The Radwag MA50R is built specifically for that two-step workflow. It's not a generic kitchen scale, it's a dedicated moisture analyzer that combines weighing and drying in a single footprint. The unit can handle up to 50 grams of material and reports changes as small as 1 milligram. That level of resolution is useful when you're dealing with samples where a few % moisture can mean the difference between a perfect batch of coffee beans and a batch that spoils quickly. What sets this model apart is the 160C infrared drying lamp. Unlike a simple hot plate, the infrared source heats the sample quickly and uniformly, which shortens the drying time. In a real-world lab, that translates to testing a new batch of herbal extract in under 10 minutes instead of waiting half an hour for a conventional oven to do the job. For a small food processing operation, you could run continuous cycles on grain or flour, getting reliable moisture numbers on the fly and adjusting drying parameters before a lot goes to market. The Backlit LCD display is more than just a visual gimmick. In a busy workshop with ambient light changing throughout the day, the screen stays readable, so you can glance at the current weight, temperature, and calculated moisture percentage without squinting. The interface also lets you toggle between 4 different dry mass determination functions. In practice, that means you can choose a quick dry to constant mode for routine checks, or a more precise dynamic drying mode when you need to capture a moisture profile over time. I've seen people use the dynamic mode to study how a polymer's water uptake changes during curing, and the data export options make that possible without manual transcription. Speaking of data, the connectivity options are surprisingly comprehensive. The MA50R ships with RS-232, USB-A, USB-B, and Wi-Fi. For a small lab that already runs a spreadsheet on a Windows PC, the USB-A cable lets you dump a batch of results in seconds. If you have a more modern setup or need to integrate the analyzer into a cloud-based quality system, the Wi-Fi module lets you push data straight to your network folder or a custom API. That flexibility is a real time saver compared to older models that only offered a serial port and required a separate PC for data capture. Now, who should actually consider buying this machine? If you're a food scientist, a small batch coffee roaster, a craft brewer, a hobbyist herbalist, or anyone who needs to verify moisture content on a regular basis, the MA50R hits a sweet spot. Its 50-gram capacity is more than enough for typical sample sizes in those fields, and the 0.001 gram resolution gives you confidence that a 2% moisture change isn't just noise. The built-in drying lamp removes the need for a separate oven, which saves both space and workflow steps. And if you already have a PC or tablet in the lab, the data ports mean you can automate record keeping without buying extra software. On the flip side, there are clear reasons to walk away. If you're just looking to weigh kitchen ingredients once in a while, you're probably overpaying. The analyzer's price point is geared toward professional or semi-professional use, and the learning curve isn't negligible. You'll need to spend a few minutes calibrating the balance, setting the drying parameters, and familiarizing yourself with the 4 moisture functions. For a hobbyist who only needs occasional moisture checks on a handful of samples per month, a basic digital scale combined with a separate drying oven could be more economical. Another practical limitation is the 50-gram maximum sample weight. If you work with bulk commodities, say, testing a kilogram of flour for a bakery, you'll have to split the sample.